Good. So first I just want to welcome everyone today to the Employer Choice Awards and give congratulations to all the companies that are being awarded today. So as we went over, I'm here to talk about mental health in the workplace and what it means to an employee who struggles with a mental illness to have support from my colleagues in my management team at work. So first I'm going to start off with a little exercise. So I want everyone to take everything out of their hands, kind of relax themselves. So first, I'm going to ask everyone to take a second and close your eyes. So everyone get relaxed in their seats there. So I want you guys to take 5 deep, big belly breaths and really relax yourselves. So now I want you guys just to listen to my voice while keep taking these deep, big, deep belly breaths. So first I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your head and to reassure your body that everything is okay. So go ahead and place your hands on your head. Keep taking those big, deep belly breaths. And inside, tell yourself that everything is okay. Second, I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your arms. Again, reassuring your body and your head and your mind that everything is okay. Keep taking those big, deep breaths. Third, I'm asking you to put your hands on your chest. Take 3 more deep, big breaths and show yourself that you have control of your breathing. Fourth, I'm going to ask you to put your hands on your legs. And again, tell yourself that you have full control of your legs in the movements here today. Right now, you guys should have full body awareness and full body control. You can open your eyes. So what we just did is called a full body scan. So this is a technique that helps somebody who's about to live through an anxiety or panic attack ground oneself. So this is a different technique that someone like myself can use if I'm feeling anxious or I'm about to live through a panic attack. There are many different techniques out today to help an individual who is about to live through this moment, but not every technique will work for you. You need to figure out what personally will work best for you in a different type of situation. So I just wanted to do this exercise so you guys understand something that someone who struggles with a mental illness, what they might have to go through in the run of a day, to take 5 minutes of their work day to kind of ground themselves and bring them back to the area they need to focus on. So just for an example, so when someone's having an anxiety attack, it's the neurons in their brain are firing and they're telling their body that it's in danger and that it needs to go into protection mode to help fight whatever that injury or that sickness that is inside of them, when realistically there's nothing actually happening. Your body thinks it's in danger, but it's actually not. So by doing this full body scan, I'm telling my body that there's not actually anything wrong with my head, with my arms, with my chest. So the chest one, one of the symptoms of having an anxiety attack, you have shortness of breath. You can't breathe, so that's when the panic starts to come in. So by having control and showing myself that I have control over my breathing can help show my brain that I actually am in control of my body. So someone like myself with anxiety, I would kind of break it down more further and get more in depth. I would even maybe go to my ears, my nose, my mouth, my shoulders, break it right down to my fingers. But it all depends on you and what you need. So that I just want to give you guys this example so you understand how someone like myself, in the run of a week, I might have to do this exercise 2 to 3 times throughout the day, just to ground myself to make sure that I'm focused and I'm doing the work that I need to get done, and I'm fully 100% there. So now I want to tell you a little bit about my story and my journey through being diagnosed with anxiety. So I'm 27 years old. I'm currently living in Charlottetown, Prince Edward Island, and I'm struggling with anxiety and panic attack disorder, but I'm okay with it. I've accepted my path and that it won't be easy and my days will vary depending on my anxiety. But having support from my colleagues, my boss, and my management team makes it easier for me. I am proud to be someone diagnosed with anxiety, and I'm sure you're wondering, why am I proud? If you all knew me on a personal level, I'm someone with an outgoing personality. I'm not shy or afraid to share my story and speak about my struggles openly. I love to help people and give guidance, and I feel that this is something that God gave me so that I could help and I could speak about my issues and my problems, and I could share my story and help end the stigma, and so that it doesn't define who I am, that I have a mental illness. So as you all may be able to tell now, I'm an outgoing, independent, confident, strong woman, but when I was diagnosed with this disability, all those things were taken away from me. I lost them. I was diagnosed 7 years ago, and I battled with my anxiety, I fought, I practiced, and I learned. And I educated myself, but it just wasn't enough. I worked closely with my doctor, so I didn't have to rely on medication. But when the anxiety got to its strongest peak, I wasn't strong enough. But I was okay with that, to rely on medication, because I tried. I did what my doctor told me. I spoke with the right people. I worked with my friends, my family, my colleagues. So when I knew it wasn't enough, I needed the medication. But I also needed the support of friends, families, and colleagues, as I said, and the companies that I worked for at the time, and the companies that I'd be working for in the future. I needed them to know how it changed me and how it affected me in the run of the day. As I slowly became healthy, confident Taylor again, and I got back to where I needed to be, I was very upfront with my managers and explained to them exactly and in depth how it changed me and how it affected me at work, but I also didn't know how it could control me. I had no idea, and I couldn't explain why. One day it was great, my anxiety, and the next day it was dramatic and feisty. I could never tell you, and today I still can't tell you why days vary. But having the support from my management team and colleagues means the world to me. As I said, my anxiety is dramatic, it's feisty, and it comes at the most unexpected times. Usually when I've done all the things that I needed to in the run of a day to keep my anxiety under control, such as taking my medication, daily exercise, eating well, and when my anxiety comes present, talking about it with colleagues, and talking to myself and doing self-talk and my exercises to help me get through my day. And that's my story. So today I'm going to go over briefly touch on a few different things, but before I start, I want to give you guys a definition of mental health and mental illness. A lot of people think that they're the same thing and they have the same definition, but they don't. They're actually very different. So when someone's talking about mental health, I will say probably everyone in this room has had a poor mental health day or a poor mental health week. So when we're talking about our mental health, we're talking about our mental well-being, our emotions, our thoughts, and our feelings, our ability to solve problems and overcome difficulties, our social connections, and our understanding of the world around us. Our mental disorder or our mental illness is very different. You need to be diagnosed by a physician, and then they can give you the right direction and resources and medication if needed. So a mental illness is the way people think, they feel, and they behave and interact with others. So someone else with anxiety, like myself, we could have very different symptoms with our anxiety. It comes out differently with everybody, so not every mental illness means that you and I have the exact same symptoms and the exact same outcome. So we need to understand that, again, there could be other people in this room who have anxiety or panic attack disorder, but how it comes out and plays out for you is always going to be different. It might be very minor, where someone else's might be very dramatic and drastic. So one of the first topics I want to talk about today is some stats in mental health. And these are ones that I've researched, and they're all based on Canada. But some of the stats that I went through they're really hard to read for someone who struggles to realize that it's still such a stigma and it's still so hard to talk about in the workplace. And I would love that if today that this can impact people to start the conversation at work and ensure that your employees have the proper training and education and have the resources that they need, because we don't know who's struggling if we don't have the conversation and we don't open that door for people to come forward to speak to their managers or another colleague or the owner of the company. So I don't know if you guys will believe me, but in the 1 week, every week in Canada, there's 500,000 Canadians that will miss work due to mental health or mental illness. 500,000 Canadians will not go to work. They'll go on short-term or long-term disability, sick leave. This is costing the Canadian economy upwards of $20 billion each year for short-term and long-term disability or permanent leave. 70% of Canadians with depression have had to leave work due to short-term or long-term disability or, again, permanently. While 35% of Canadians have had to quit their jobs due to depression, while 25% has said they've lost their jobs due to depression. 78% of Canadians are concerned that they will lose their job due to depression or a mental illness. While in the past 5 years, the court-awarded settlements due to mental injury in Canada has increased by 700%. Another one is the amount an employer can save by having that open conversation and by having your employees get the proper treatment they needed can save the company upwards to $5,000 to $10,000 in average wage replacements in sick leave for long-term disability, short-term disability, and medication. Percentage of Canadians that have no structured process for supervisors to support employees in a return to work program for mental illness or disability is 64%. So that's saying that managers do not have the structured diagrams for if an employee was to leave, to have a return to work program set in place for them when they leave the workplace, 64%. So that's quite the number. And this one also is one that hit close to home. The percentage of organizations that identify addressing the stigma associated with mental illness as a priority in the workplace is only 20% of companies and organizations in Canada. So that other 80% don't find it a priority, don't think it's important enough, but that's just because I feel, and this is how I feel, the education of it and us understanding like how it really affects employees. So I find the more we can educate our staff and educate ourselves, the more we can help those around us and even help ourselves when maybe we don't even know that we're struggling. As you can see from these stats, mental health has greatly impacted many companies. Mental health has created many different scenarios. Mental health may be triggered from work, but it might be also from your outside lives as well. But the main event might happen within the workplace, the final trigger. The duration and severity of mental health problems are often determined by the complex array of factors other than the immediate trigger. The final, your last straw that you just can't take it anymore, that might happen in the workplace, but there might be other personal triggers in your outside life that bring that to that last straw. To effectively address the issues, there is a need to look at the individual experiencing mental health problems, the compounding characteristics in the workplace, and the remedies needed to improve the employees' well-being. Employees must look after themselves while at work, but also in your outside lives. Staff need to ensure that they play a key part in reducing stress conditions and must report any stress or unhealthy workplace conditions to their supervisor, manager, or boss. So the next one we're going to talk about is mental well-being in the workplace. The workplace is one of the prominent environments that affect our well-being. We spend more than 75–80% of our time at work throughout our older years. There is a growing understanding of how work promotes or hinders mental wellness or mental illness. There can be a positive impact on your mental health or a poor impact on your mental health. The impact of employment on personal growth, identity, improved self-esteem, and social network development is obvious. The most mental health professionals agree that the workplace environment can have a significant impact on an individual's mental well-being. And there's consequences when dealing with mental health at work as an employer and as an owner and a manager. Absenteeism, as I've said, sick leave, poor health at work, poor physical conditions as well. Work performance, productivity and output, increase in errors, increase in accidents, poor decision making, staff attitude and behavior, loss of motivation or commitment, burnout, poor timekeeping, relationships at work, tension and conflict between colleagues, poor relationships with their clients, and increase in disciplinary problems. So maintaining a healthy and safe workplace includes incorporating and addressing all the above risk factors in your workplace mental health plan. So my question is, to end this section, did you know that this is how much mental health has impacted the workplace? From the stats I gave earlier. So second, I'm going to touch on mental health in trucking, as that's what we're all here for today. So mental health in trucking is more prevalent than we're aware of. Spending 2 to 3 weeks of time on the road, alone, isolated, to little to no human interaction. I have researched, and the drivers have expressed in many documentaries, and that the struggles that they deal with on the road are loneliness, depression, chronic sleep deprivation, anxiety, and other emotional problems. So we need to start treating mental health just like a physical injury or any other injury or illness, Trucking possesses several risk factors when it comes to mental health issues. Long driving shifts, again, sleep deprivation, social isolation, delivery urgencies, all create health issues such as sleep apnea, obesity, diabetes, drug and alcohol abuse, and psychological problems. We now have the means in today's society to send out mental health information more frequently, such as a weekly newsletter, sending out videos, different apps that they can download on their phones to educate themselves while on the road, books. The more information we get out to the drivers and provide them with the resources that we can give them, the more willing that they will be able to come forward and speak with us. For all those companies, such as ourselves, we have an immigration program. and those companies are even at higher risk for employees struggling with mental health. As we bring in drivers from outside of Canada, and he or she is coming to a new country, new culture, and a new world. Our largest concern with them is depression. Our best thing to do for them, for those drivers coming in, for an example from our company, a lot of our drivers seem to know somebody within the company or have a relationship with someone or a friend or something like that. So something that we can do is provide a positive culture while they come in, bring our drivers together to help them build a strong working relationship. So some examples you guys can do is have a monthly barbecue where office staff and drivers get to mingle and get to know each other. Or have a driver social once a month where you get to work with the drivers after hours and they get to teach you and educate you about their culture, and then you can have a night where you bring in food from their culture and everyone gets to try it. So it's an educational bit for staff members but also for other drivers from different cultures. Or just having an open door policy with your HR team. If they need someone to talk to, if they need direction, advice. I help drivers book appointments who've never booked an appointment here. I help them book physio, I help them book doctor's appointments. It's very meaningful to them because maybe the way they do in their culture is different than we do here. I mean, it's not too different, but it's good to help them and know that they have someone to come to with even personal issues at home. So the question is, what do you do for your drivers to educate them about mental health? So the last one I'm going to talk about today is duties of the manager. And when I say duties of the manager, I'm talking about one area, and that's building a strong, trusting relationship with each member on your team. And having a good relationship will help those on your team come forward when they are struggling. They need help, they need direction, and they need those resources. I have a very strong relationship with my boss and my reporting manager at home. I'm very open on the days that I'm struggling and the days that I just can't come into work. I was like, my mental health, I'm better to be at home today, in my comfort zone. I was like, if you can support me, then I know that I have that. And if I didn't have that, I feel like it would make me more anxious to come forward and to come to that individual with my personal issues. So by knowing your team on a personal level will help you as a manager notice when someone is struggling. You notice their behavior has changed, their performance has decreased, and they're creating a pattern that's out of the norm for them, such as being late, not meeting deadlines, making mistakes when there normally isn't one. So something that you guys can do at work is a workplace risk assessment. So this will entail training management to identify the signs of stress or mental health hazards in each employee. Management will need to be able to see the signs of poor mental health or stress factors, and we want them to be comfortable and confident when addressing these issues. A key priority here is to ensure a positive development and a trustful relationship to ensure that that employee, when the manager comes to them, is comfortable sharing such personal, delicate issues. We want to ensure that managers are also very comfortable to ask the question. You know what I mean? Because we need to get into that personal level with them, and we need to go and put work aside and say, what's going on? Like, what can I do? Something seems different here, and like, how can I help you, and how can we help you as a company? So that comes back to communication. Communication is crucial to the success of mental health workplace plans. Management must be aware of the communication skills needed to talk with staff regarding mental health. Staff need to feel completely safe when opening up with managers. It must not feel that they will be looked down upon or looked at differently when coming forward with mental health or mental illness. Another thing that we can do is monitoring work levels. So managers must acknowledge about safe workloads and must recognize when staff have unhealthy levels of work. That's putting stress on them, that when we can delegate that or help them organize their days better to make that stress go down, that's something that we can do as a manager. So stress-related absences. Owners and managers must pay close attention to increased absence of staff members, but as well as other fellow managers. Missing time and absence patterns should be noted and watched. If patterns are noticed, managers need to use their training to professionally address the situation and ask the appropriate questions. For example, I've noticed that you've been becoming more absent lately than usual. I just wanted to come in today and sit with you to check to see if everything's okay, and if there's anything that you need to talk about or bring forward, or anything that I can help you and give you guidance with. It's a conversation as simple as that, and it's just as easy as that. Because sometimes the employee might be nervous to come forward and say that, so if you go to them, it's much more opening and it's much more meaningful to notice if they notice that something's off about me. So support staff, I've kind of briefly gone over that throughout the conversation, but as managers, we need to make sure that our company resources are readily available to our employees, such as an EAP program, and that we use that for our employees. And that doesn't have to just be used for mental health, it can be used for many other resources that someone else is struggling with. So the last one here is managerial support. Managers need the proper training to feel confident when addressing mental illness at work. An option is to bring an outside party in to train them to adequately train management in mental health and mental well-being, so to ensure that they are comfortable asking those questions. So before I end here today, my last question is, have you given your managers or supervisors the proper training to be confident, to be comfortable to approach an employee? So I'm going to end it here today, but before I go, I want you to take the time over the next week to consider, have you implemented and what have you done for your employees around mental health? Have you started the conversation? Have you educated your staff? Have you given the training to those supervisors or managers? Do your employees need to know where to go when they need to seek help? Do they know who the one person is in the company that they can go get that card for the EAP program? So I want to say thank you today for letting me share my story, and I hope I made an impact on you on your outlook on mental health at work to start the conversation and to help us end the stigma around mental health. Thank you.
Thank you, Taylor. And I do have to say, first of all, hats off to Taylor and her team and support team at Seafood Express. I think that's a great example of what's happening in the workplace today. And I think that, Taylor, if I'm correct, that was your first official speaking engagement. So you did a great job. You did very well. So we are going to go in and they're going to start bringing in lunch now, and we will we'll come back probably in about 45 minutes or so, and we'll do the awards so that we don't hold anybody up past 1 o'clock. Thank you.